do something about it, and hopefully the international community will get in and do that. But the UN has their sights more set on taking away American sovereignty, the United States sovereignty, instead of actually doing things like ensuring religious freedom around the world. So I'm not going to hold my breath, but hopefully somebody will have a moment of conscience and put people into action and band together and do something and do what's necessary, and bring that religious freedom back to them so we can hope. Okay, sorry about going that to a downer. I would like to go back to something happy here. Well, I don't know if I'd call it necessarily happy, but I've got some Second Amendment news for you, and I want to go over some of that before I segue over to some news about our own national sovereignty and national security. But talking about personal security here, there's a couple stories out there. So if you go over to BuzzFeed again, you look up a story about thugs shoot their way in, get carried out. This one's by Stephen Ale. Usually Eric Reed gives us our Second Amendment stories, but this one comes from Stephen. And Stephen is one of the better writers or more active writers over at BuzzPo. And he kind of covers a gambit of several things. Well worth reading anything he puts up. But this particular one talks about things going on in Pittsburgh. And evidently, according to Stephen, thugs in Pittsburgh shot their way into an apartment that was occupied by a 19-year-old man and his 17-year-old girlfriend. All right, don't get hung up on the fact that one was over 18 and one was under 18. There's only a 2-year difference there, and nobody says they were necessarily doing anything. They were just a guy and his girlfriend that were here 2 years apart. So drop the assumptions there. Anyway, these guys come busting into an apartment and demand that he give over all of his stuff, especially his valuable things. Well, the young man went, and the first thing he got to give them was 3 blasts from a shotgun, and that killed one of the assailants and left the other one critically wounded. And they both ended up in the morgue, and the other one ended up in the hospital. The thugs were named David Calhoun, age 31, and Christopher Thomas, age 27. Originally, they shot their way into the apartment, and basically shoved the young man to the ground, put a gun in his face, and told him to turn his stuff over. And he was like, "Okay, let me go get my stuff." All right, say hello to my little friend. Boom, 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 and DRT, dead right there. Bye, bad guy. So, yeah, and then the victim, or I shouldn't say victim, the assailant that survived, Thomas, he's been charged with a litany of crimes here: aggravated assault, burglary, robbery, conspiracy, carrying a firearm without a license, and he's got outstanding warrants for charges of rape. Well, the corpse, as Steve Al puts it, the corpse has not been charged with any crimes at this point. Yeah. I could just see an interesting court case with that. How do you plead? Excuse me? Can you speak up? Can we get a medium in here? We need to get somebody to translate. Anyway. So, go ahead and read the rest of Ailes' article, because he goes into a few other details that I didn't share with you. But that's an interesting kind of a happy story, I guess. Well, it's not necessarily happy. It's somebody kicked in somebody your door and demanded you give them your stuff at gunpoint. But the outcome was definitely a happy ending, at least for the young man and his girlfriend. Maybe not so much for the bad guys, but then again, bad guys maybe should not have happy endings. Speaking of other endings, depends again on your point of view or which person you would be in this particular story, but also in the great state of Pennsylvania, in the city of Darby, at a hospital, a man came in and pulled a gun and started going nutso. Of course, there's a behavioral health clinic at the hospital. In other words, it was a psychiatry office. And he shot a caseworker, which is probably a counselor or one of the licensed social workers that kind of helps out and helps, guide the cases so that the patients get where they need to go and get the care that they need. Any way, shape, or form, this person's title was caseworker, got shot and killed. But one of the doctors there, one of the psychologists or psychiatrists, was carrying his licensed concealed firearm, and he said, "Oh snap, somebody's got a gun and he's yelling threats, he's shooting. Oh, he shot me." Got grazed by the fire. He pulled his concealed weapon and returned fire at the attacker and shot him. Boom. Done. He wounded, did not kill, so this isn't a DRT story, but he did wound the attacker and stopped the assault before anybody else could be harmed or killed. So the doctor, the psychiatrist, got a grazing wound. Now, from all the accounts, this is considered an act of self-defense. At least that's what the district attorney, Jack Whalen, is saying. However, this and also, by the way, the police chief also kind of doubled in and said, without a doubt, the doctor saved lives when he returned fire. He stopped this guy from hurting anybody else. But he did kill one person. So before he could kill or harm anybody else, the doctor stopped him. And of course, the police chief, gave that. But here's the problem. The hospital is considered a gun-free zone, and even the workers there are asked, please don't bring your guns to work. In fact, we don't allow them here. So, technically, because it's private property, and it's a gun-free zone, by the owners of that property, the doctor kind of stepped over the line and kind of broke the law there, although he's able to legally and lawfully carry, and he legally and lawfully used his firearm in self-defense. There's going to be arguments that he shouldn't have had it there. Well, if he hadn't had it there, there'd have been a lot more dead, possibly even him, several of his patients, several other hospital workers, until the guy could have been tracked down and subdued and taken down. And who knows, where he would have stopped. Would he have stopped when he finally ran out of ammo? Would he have left one round for himself? Who knows? Well, luckily we don't have to find out. That this concealed weapon carrying psychiatrist had the forethought to protect himself, his patients, and his co-workers. And hats off to him. Good job. And this is just a demonstration of why gun-free zones don't work. So, again, this article actually was on Fox News. So, just go ahead and check that one out. But it's on Fox News' online site. And I'll admit I'm not the biggest fan of Fox News, but once in a while, we get good stories coming out of them. And, well, this one originated with the Associated Press anyway. So it's kind of everybody carrying the story, or it's free, not free, but available to the various news sources to go and cover it. So go ahead and look it up. But yes, great dead right there story. And since we're following crime news, we'll go ahead and bring out some more crime news. So we had the two good news stories of people being potential victims of a crime or being victims of crime and being able to stop those crimes because they were lawfully and legally using their firearms for self-defense and did so in the last resort scenarios that warranted such. However, let's talk about Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin is in the news. And although when she's in the news these days, usually it's for her doing something to try to help our country out. But this is kind of some local news from back in her hometown of Wasilla. I hope I'm saying that properly, but Wasilla or Wasilla, Alaska. Evidently, Sarah was driving around in her Toyota Tundra and kind of stepped down on that accelerator a little bit and ended up getting pulled over for speeding. How dare you? How dare you speed and break the law, Sarah Palin? How dare you do that just like most Americans who drive do? Break the speed limit. Well, let me tell you something, guys. Yes, there's speed limits that are put up for safety concerns and safety reasons. They're out there, and there's legitimate reasons for speed zones in plenty of areas, for the safety of pedestrians and fellow drivers, etc. Then there's areas where the speed limits are there for one purpose and one purpose only: to raise money. It's not really a speeding ticket. It's an acceleration tax. That's just my take on it. Like I said, in some areas, especially residential neighborhoods, you need them because otherwise you have jackasses driving 40 in a 25 zone where kids are playing in and around the streets. Yeah. That's where you need the speed limits and you need patrolling. But then again, these residential areas are usually not being patrolled to stop the people from driving like that. Where are the speed traps? Where are the police patrolling? On the thoroughfares that are busy and known to have a higher speed limit than the 25 mile an hour. And they're not residential areas. And there's not kids playing in the street. And it's a lot safer to drive faster. But that's where the cops are, pulling people over for driving faster. Where it has a much reduced bearing on the safety and welfare of the citizens. And the only reason that they patrol those areas is because they can hand out the tickets and the people get fined, and those fines go into the public coffers. So let's call a spade a spade. It's not a speeding fine. It's an acceleration tax in those areas. Anyway, Governor Palin was driving around, and she was speeding, and she got pulled over. And when she received her ticket, allegedly, her response was, "I wasn't speeding. I was qualifying," making a reference, of course, to NASCAR. She was also kind of making fun of the fact she was doing 63 in a 45 zone, kind of making fun of herself, making kind of a sideway reference to a Sammy Hagar song. So, yeah, it's 100 and $50 plus ticket. She knew she was caught. She didn't sit there and try to get out of it. She just kind of made a joke about the whole situation and paid her acceleration tax with a smile. You know, did you get a speeding ticket? Were you speeding? Well, you betcha. Yeah. So let the liberals get all spun up on our criminal element out there in Sarah Palin. Well, talking about some other ridiculous things regarding the left. These are always fun to put a tongue-in-cheek smile on your face as we make fun of some of the stupidity out there. Well, evidently the left-wing, in quotes, news outlet out there, Salon, wanted to discuss the political affiliations of the whack job that shot President Kennedy. We'll, of course, talk about Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, Salon says that Lee Harvey Oswald was not, or is claiming that he was a right-wing extremist because the assassination took place in Dallas, and it's Texas, and Texas has guns, and people love guns in Texas, and Lee Harvey Oswald was in Texas. So therefore, by Salon's logic, their broken syllogism is that, therefore, Oswald must be a right-wing conservative, gun-loving nut. It seems that they just completely ignored history and the facts coming up with that, because Lee Harvey Oswald was a dedicated communist. He was a socialist. He was a diehard extreme left-winger, and one of the reasons he shot Kennedy is because he didn't think Kennedy was left-wing enough. He shot Kennedy because he opposed the communism attempted attack or attempted build-up in Cuba with the Cuban Missile Crisis. He, kind of reminds me of the whack job that shot Gabby Giffords. Same thing. An extreme left-winger who didn't think that their left-wing politician that they targeted was left-wing enough. Because prior to getting shot, Gabby Giffords actually had supposed repealing the assault weapon ban and so-called assault rifle ban, etc., and supported Arizona's lessening of the infringements on the Second Amendment. So he shot her. Just like Lee Harvey Oswald, the extreme left-winger, shot Kennedy for not being left-wing enough. But Salon wants you to believe that the avowed, dedicated communist socialist operative, Lee Harvey Oswald, because this happened in Texas, must be a right-winger, right? Start laughing, boys and girls. Look at your real history and laugh at how poor this attempt to rewrite and revise history, Salon, very poor attempt that they made. But this article on the Salon article is, of course, over at Red State, written by Leon Wolf. So go over to redstate.com and take a look at that. Get the facts, find the reality versus the fiction, and have a good laugh at Salon at their expense. Of course, they'll come out and say, "We were just kidding. It was a joke." Yeah, that's what they usually say when they're found to be stupid. But speaking of dumb moves and dumb people, we have good old Senator John Walsh from Montana, the former lieutenant governor. I think he was lieutenant governor of Montana before he became the state senator. Turns out that a good chunk of his work leading to his master's degree and a good chunk of his work done in the War College, etc., was plagiarized. He stole it. He didn't have a free thought. no original thoughts, no original thinking. He had to snag other people's work. What does that sound like? Taking somebody's